Lavender essential oil. Probably just saying those words is already soothing and calming. And that is for good reason. Lavender essential oil is one of the top essential oils that people think about when they think about relieving their stress and calming their mind and their body. Today, I want to talk all about lavender essential oil. It's an essential oil that soothes the brain. It's been shown in various studies to lower anxiety symptoms. It can calm stress and it can decrease head discomfort and do a lot more. Now, everybody knows that their body will go off balance once in a while. And I don't want you to obsess or freak out about every physical or mental hiccup. If you take good care of yourself, your body will realign and recalibrate. That's what it's meant to do. But when some symptoms are consistent and troublesome, that's when it's time to dig deeper and look into the underlying cause because you want to catch something before it can later on down the road lead to something more serious. Now, in my series on headaches, I discussed why this was important and why it's important to get to the root issues of the underlying triggers because they could signify another imbalance. And when you correct that, you can correct the headaches and you can also correct that underlying imbalance. And then I got to use the thought of essential oils because essential oils are unique in that they actually help modulate some of the symptoms that are troublesome and at the same time address some of the mind body underlying imbalances. And this is on a physiological, a psychological, and a biochemical level. So the cool thing is with aroma and the two properties that essential oils has, which is their aroma and their physical properties, right? Combined, we get an instantaneous effect on the mood, which brings us out, right? The sense of smell goes directly to your limbic brain or your emotional center. It brings us out of reacting patterns and stress patterns and allows us to use more of our prefrontal cortex, which is our executive functioning. And that also can calm the body down at the same time. And then when we allow the body to calm and decrease stress, the body can get what it needs and we can keep nourishing it and it can heal a lot better or go back into balance. So previously I discussed peppermint oil and how I highlighted it, how it has been shown in studies to address headaches. I kind of spun off on the headache topic I'd been doing for a while. And then I also described why it is so cool in addressing a lot of other different things because of its synergy. And synergy is where the sum is greater than the whole of its parts. And that's because peppermint isn't just one or two isolated compounds, but an array of hundreds of different compounds that interact with our cellular receptors all at once. It's been shown, as I said, to help with headaches, but also to modulate brain function and improve memory, focus, exercise performance, and cognitive function, while it relieves digestive disorders, such as irritable bowel syndrome. There's been studies for that as well. Now, if you have missed out on any of my previous series or you want to learn more, there will be links in the video description, and there'll also be a link to the accompanying article with the references and resources to this video. So be sure to check that out. Okay, so moving on about lavender essential oil, I want to discuss a little bit about the properties of the oil first. We'll talk about its impact on the nervous system, some of the studies on its role in calming down stress and anxiety, and then to headaches, and then we'll kind of sum it all up. So let's get started about an overview of lavender essential oil. Now, lavender belongs to the Lamiaceae family. The Lamiaceae is the mint flowering plant family. And some of its main constituents are camphor, terpenofonol, linalool acetate, and beta-ocimene, as well as 1,8-senol. Now, these all have different actions. Lavender is mostly linalool and linalool acetate when we think of its calming effects. Those are the ones that are most attributed to it. But if we kind of step off for a little bit and I geek out with you for a little bit on the biochemistry, if you think about it, camphor is a component that's been shown to have some anti-inflammatory impact, some support for the respiratory system. Beta-ocimene is a monoterpene, which has a vast variety of different impacts on the cells. Think of the anti-words like anti-inflammatory, anti-infectious. Those are what the monoterpenes do. 1,8-phenol is probably most well known for respiratory impact, and some of the other properties attributed more to eucalyptus oils. So you can see that lavender has these various different constituents all at once that combine for some pretty cool properties. And now there's various, as with most essential oils, there's various species and chemotypes. So they're going to have different percentages of these different compounds, which can alter the impact and its interaction with your biochemistry. So you want to try an essential oil that works best for your biochemistry and a manufacturer that you trust. Now, lavender, because of all these different properties, when you look up its different actions, one review stated the following main actions for lavender essential oil, taking this all into consideration: that it's an analgesic, which means it's anxiety relieving. It's a mood stabilizer, a sedative, spasmolytic, which means it stops spasms, antihypertensive, antimicrobial, analgesic, which is a pain reliever, and a wound healing accelerator. Kind of a fun fact. How lavender was discovered to help skin is it was by accident when a French chemist was doing an experiment in his lab, René Gessaphe, and he burnt himself. And he thought that the pail next to him was water. Well, it was pure lavender essential oil. And let me just say pure, because you don't want to get an adulterated form of lavender and do this. But he dipped his arm into the bin with lavender, and his skin healed in a pretty impressive amount of time and very well. So that's how lavender got its role in some of its skin health promoting properties. Now, according to one review, there's a lot of benefits of lavender based on these various properties that would not only impact headaches, but also impact some of the associated symptoms, such as sleep issues, anxiety, warding off infections. Sometimes infections can cause inflammation that can lead to neurological disturbances, muscle strain from that tightness, and immune support. And linalool and linalool acetate are often what is attributed, as I stated, to lavender's calming. And they even stated in the review as narcotic-like properties. But remember, we're going to talk about the synergism when we're talking about essential oils. But they attributed linalool and linalool acetate to have great absorbing properties for the skin and to help with mood issues, central nervous system, linalool showing more of a sedative effect, and linalool acetate showing more of this narcotic, which is the sedative properties where it's really calming down the nervous system. And it also has been shown for its antibacterial, antifungal properties. And when we talk about aromatherapy, it's been used for things such as abrasions, burns, stress, headaches, new cell growth, skin problems, painful muscles, and boosting an immune system. There's promising research as well for primary dysmenorrhea, which is pain related to the menstrual cycle. So these are all different impacts of lavender that's been shown in some studies in the research with some good clinical trials, as well as some preclinical trials on the actions of some of the constituents relating to lavender essential oil. Now, if we look at lavender oil for the nervous system, there was a vast array of huge review of lavender on the nervous system that looked at preclinical, clinical, and also mechanisms of actions of the various constituents. And the authors provided this analysis. It used all different methods of applications of lavender. They indicated that lavender was shown to have in vivo, so that means in animals, evidence for protecting the brain by modulating inflammatory pathways and neurotransmitter signals. And these neurotransmitters specifically highlighted were dopamine, GABA, and serotonin. Now, human studies also demonstrated changes in the brain's actual functioning with the inhalation of lavender essential oil, and its calming effects were shown to have an impact on sleep, pain, and positive moods. And they actually studied the brainwave shifts with EEGs, or electroencephalograms. So that is an overview of lavender on the nervous system and how it can impact the brain and maybe some of the mechanisms. If we look at lavender and anxiety, that's where there's a lot of research. It has such convincing research that in Germany, there's a formulation known as Selexin that is a prescription medicine for anxiety, and it's an 80 milligram tablet. So the lavender comes in an oral form. And in a review of pharmacological and preclinical data and 7 clinical trials, the authors reported that lavender did indeed have an impact on various measures of anxiety. Selexin had also beneficial effects with anxiety disorder symptoms such as impaired sleep, body complaints, and comorbid depression or decreased quality of life. And it did not induce or cause any drug interaction, sedation, or withdrawal syndromes at daily doses of 800 to 160 milligrams. Now, in accordance with some other studies, a 2019 randomized clinical study also found that lavender was supportive in relieving anxiety, mood, and vital signs. They actually looked at things like blood pressure, respiratory rate, heart rate, and oxygen saturation because they wanted to see if there was this physiological impact as well as psychological impact. It was 126 patients, and what they did find was that it indeed did decrease blood pressure in the lavender group, and these were patients undergoing oral surgery. So it decreased blood pressure post-operatively as well as the anxious symptoms. And the patients in the lavender oil group said that they enjoyed the scent and were satisfied with the experience, which is not what most people say after oral surgery. In a systematic review and meta-analysis of anxiety that was for lavender, there was 65 randomized controlled trials. So that's 7,993 patients and 25 non-randomized trials, which was over about 1,200 patients using all different preparations of lavender, dilutions, ratios, different manufacturers. Overall, lavender was shown to be effective in relieving anxiety. The highest evidence was for that oral form, and it's most likely because of those controlled trials of using Selexin at a therapeutic dose, right? So when you get these meta-analysis, sometimes it's hard to find an effect if they're using all different application types, all different dosages, all different patient populations. But when you get to someone with that specific need with a specific right dose, you'll tend to see a better effect. So that is about lavender and anxiety. Now, if we look at lavender, stress, and cortisol specifically, so we're going to look at some of the hormonal stress effects of lavender essential oil. This too has at least a few good studies. Now, there was one study that showed that lavender oil in 22 subjects, so it's a small study, but they measured salivary cortisol as well as what's known as FRSA, which is an antioxidant measurement. And they diluted the oils in propylene glycol, which isn't my favorite way to use essential oils, but that's what they did. And they based it on, with this dilution, the scent of pleasantness for the subjects. And they found that a low concentration of lavender and a high concentration of rosemary decreased the stress hormone as well as increased antioxidants. So we're getting this dual effect again of lavender. In another study, again, with people with open heart surgery, it was 90 candidates, and they did 20 minutes of inhalation of lavender essential oil, 2 drops, and they checked measurements of anxiety and cortisol. Again, a benefit was received. So we see these different properties of lavender essential oil combining to really impact that nervous system, the stress response, lower our cortisol hormone. And then if we look at it as far as how it impacts headaches, there's various triggers and causes for headaches. Some people think of it as more of a neurological, right, or a nervous system issue. But again, what are the underlying issues? There'll be links in the video description if you want to dig into some of the potential causes. If we look at lavender, think of some of the properties, right? Anti-inflammatory, cortisol lowering, anti-infectious, potentially pain relieving, impacting brain functioning and neurotransmitters, it would make sense that this essential oil would be one that researchers would want to look at to see if it would relieve the symptoms of headaches. And that is what is found in several studies. There was a 42 patient study with migraine headaches, and they were using lavender essential oil for 15 minutes compared to a control group that used liquid paraffin for the same time period. They assessed headache severity and some of the symptoms in 30-minute intervals for 2 hours. And what they found was headache severity did decrease more in the lavender group at a potentially substantial amount. There were 129 headache attacks in the lavender groups overall, and 92 people responded when they used lavender to have the headache decrease. Now, in the placebo group, only about half, about less than half, right? 32 out of 68 placebo subjects responded just to placebo. So again, if I don't have an issue with the fact that placebo works, I say use that placebo effect that you believe something's going to work on top of something that actually works, and you're going to get an even better effect. So the authors found, again, that lavender essential oil may be effective in a safe treatment modality for acute management of migraine headaches. That's directly from the literature of that study that's linked in the video description. Now, another randomized control study showed the impact of a particular lavender species. It wasn't the lavender we most think about, Lavender angustifolia, but it did find that it was good for prophylactic migraine treatment in subjects on medication. So they were doing both, and it was evaluated over 3 months. Lavender they selected because of its impact on the nervous system, specifically the linalool and linalool acetate. That's what the research authors stated. The results indicated this decrease in severity and frequency in the lavender group versus the control. And then there was another study I found where 2 to 3 drops of lavender inhalation for 15 minutes, 3 times a week for 4 weeks. So it was just a month study compared to another study showed this decrease in headache intensity, but also in depression. And this was the lavender group that had the benefits for both. So, like most essential oils, lavender has multiple effects on the mind and body. It's related to its chemical composition. Think of lavender, we think of calming and soothing, but don't let that fool you, because calming the whole brain and calming the nervous system is going to impact the whole body in pretty profound ways. Then you add in sprinkles of other chemical constituents that have these other effects, and it's a pretty powerful essential oil. I urge you to get one that you know is good quality and that really responds well to your response of pleasantness, right? Because you want to use it in essential oil with aroma you like. And because of this effect, I focused on a symptom or sometimes maybe even a diagnosis, which are migraines or headaches for the use of lavender oil in clinical studies. And you'd want to go back to those studies and see maybe which essential oil brand or company they used if you want to get really geeky. But just remember that lavender oil is balancing to the physiology, biology, and our biochemistry. Think of it as soothing to the brain and body, and think of it as addressing multiple things in your body all at once. And that's why I love essential oils. Even if you're just going to get a diffuser and have it diffusing in the background, inhaling it, think of what that's doing for you without really doing anything except maybe in the morning or at night, dropping in a few drops in some diffuser and letting it go all day. All those powerful constituents that you're inhaling throughout the day can have a profound effect on your health. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, check out the video description. I have information on various offerings that I have, free resources, as well as a community membership program. I dive into some education on essential oils, but also other wellness topics. You're welcome to check that out. I thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a beautiful rest of your day or evening whenever you're watching this, and I will be back. And if you could do me a favor and like this video or pass it on, that will support more people to become empowered about their wellness, as well as will help out this channel. So thank you very much, and I will speak to you real soon. Take good care.